So welcome back. We're now into our final part of this video. We're going to be taking our Battle Mage from levels 11 through 20. This is a unique wizard build because we are focusing on strength, which is something we normally dump with wizards. We've also been focusing our spells on spells that allow us to do lots of single target damage that work with our melee attacks so that we can deliver more damage than we would expect even a lot of martial characters to do. So this is the point, level 11, where I'm going to go back into fighter. So the whole point of the second level of fighter is for action surge. So starting at second level, you can push yourself beyond normal limits for a moment. On your turn, you can take one additional action. When you use this feature, you can't use it again until you take a short or long rest. So once per short rest, we can use action surge. We can get 2 actions on a round in addition to our bonus action. And what that's going to do with this character is it allows us to cast 2 spells in the same round because, again, it is a common misconception that you can't cast 2 spells in the same round unless one is a cantrip. The reality is if you cast a bonus action spell, any other spell you cast that round must be a cantrip. But if we use our action twice to cast 2 one-action spells, because we can do that with action surge, that is entirely legal. And that is exactly what we want to do with this character. So what is going to happen now is when we're playing this character, we're going to play it as per normal. And then when we get to that big fight, the big battle and the big bad guy, and we know it's going to be tough, on round 1, we're going to use our action surge. And what are we going to cast with our action surge? Well, we're going to cast animate objects, and we are going to cast fire shield. Then we're going to run into our combat. We can use our bonus action to attack with those animated objects. Now we are in a position where we can be attacking our enemy with our booming blade. We can be attacking our enemy with our animated objects. We have our fire shield up to protect us against a certain type of damage, but also when we're taking lots of attacks, as we tend to do in those big fights, and if we're getting hit a lot, those enemies are each taking 2d8 damage every time they hit us. So we're layering up our fire shield, which increases our offense, and our animate objects, which increases our offense. And that's going to be on top of our booming blade or green flame blade that are both scaled at this point. So now they're adding 2d8 damage to the base damage of the weapon, and either 3d8 damage or 2d8 damage plus 4 with their secondary damage. So this character is just piling on waves of damage at this point. How much damage? Well, if we assume that we're getting attacked and hit once a round while we have a fire shield up, and we are attacking with our animated objects, we would expect this character to do more than double the baseline damage for a 20th level character at 11th level. That's not assuming any power surges or anything like that. That's just using our action surge on the first round, getting those 2 spells going. Animate objects is using our concentration. Fire shield is not. They're both adding to our damage, and it just piles on and on and on because it's the base damage of the weapon, plus the damage of the booming blade or green flame blade, plus the secondary damage of the booming blade or the green flame blade, plus the 10 attacks from animate objects, plus the potential damage we're adding on from fire shield, and it just adds up and adds up and adds up till we're just doing an insane amount of damage with this character. Except unlike a martial character who's just attacking over and over again with a weapon, we're doing all these different things, which to me is also more interesting to play. Now, we're not doing that damage in every combat. In the rest of the combats, we're going to be using probably still flaming spheres a lot because we want to save those animate objects for the big fight. And we might even want to be using a wall of force once in a while because wall of force, of course, is amazing. But I would consider upcasting that flaming sphere to 3rd level by this point. If we want to use a 4th level spell in combat, then I would consider the greater invisibility spell. Get that advantage, get the disadvantage to being hit, so you can save those hit points for that big fight, so that when you get hit, you can do all that damage with the fire shield without having to worry about going down right away. And I wouldn't expect this character to be using a lot of 2nd level slots at this point. So what I would do is I would be casting my false life with 2nd level slots, get that additional 5 hit points, and I would recast it in between combats each time it goes down. And that's really going to boost the hit points of this character up. Now, if you are in a party that has something like an inspiring leader, where you're getting temporary hit points all the time anyways, they're not going to stack. So in that case, then you're not going to use false life. You can just keep those spell slots, use them for something else. Now we could very easily stop taking fighter at this point and just go wizard the rest of the way. And then we could potentially even pick up a 3rd level fighter at 20th level, or we can take our additional fighter level now. Those are the two ways I would go with this. I wouldn't come back into fighter halfway through what's going on now. I would either do it now or right at the end. With this build, I'm going to do it right now. Keep in mind, this will delay our 9th level spells till we get to 20th level. So we're really pushing this character to be super effective around the 10th through 13th level, and we're sacrificing a little bit at those higher levels, 18 and 19, because this character could be accessing 9th level spells at 19th level. But taking that 3rd level fighter gives us more right now. So when it comes to the archetype for fighter, there's a few good options here, but I do like Battle Master here. So the big thing about Battle Master is combat superiority. So when we choose this archetype at 3rd level, we learn maneuvers that are fueled by special dice called superiority dice. We get 3 maneuvers of our choice, and which I'm going to go over in a moment. And we get 2 additional maneuvers later on. We'll never achieve those. We're getting 3 maneuvers. We have 4 superiority dice, which are D8s. And whenever we use it, it's expended, and we get them back on every short rest. So there's basically 4 attacks we're going to be able to boost with superiority dice. Now, what we want to avoid here are maneuverability dice that are going to rely on our dexterity, because some do. Ones that are going to use reactions, because some do. We want them to just be extra and be something we can pile on top of those many, many things we can already do. Now, the DC for combat superiority dice is going to be slightly different because it's going to be based on our strength rather than our intelligence. So it is going to be 1 less, though it's still pretty good because, again, we have a good strength. Then we get Student of War, which is going to give us proficiency in one kind of tool set. And depending on the campaign, you might want something specific. But I think just kind of a general one, Smith's Tools, is a good one to use for somebody who uses armor and weapons. So there's 3 specific maneuvers I think stand out for this build. The first one is Menacing Attack. So Menacing Attack, when we hit a creature with a weapon attack, we can expand 1 superiority die to attempt to frighten the target. You add the superior die to the attack's damage roll. So it's just another way we can pile damage on top of this character's single attack roll with their weapon. And the target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, it's frightened of us until the end of our next turn. So that's going to give it disadvantage on attacks. It is going to make its maneuverability a lot harder. And if it has to make any ability checks, they are going to be at disadvantage as well. But if it makes its saving throw, it's still not the end of the world. We still added D8 to our damage. The second one I want to take is Pushing Attack. So when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend 1 superiority die to attempt to drive the target back. You add the superior die to the attack's damage roll, so again, we're piling damage on top. And if the target is large or smaller, it must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, you push the target up to 15 feet from you. So this is something that's nice to use with a booming blade. So you can push it, so it needs to move on the next round to get back to you, and take booming blade damage. Of course, pushing can have other effects as well. You can push somebody off a cliff or off a bridge, those kinds of things as well. And the last one I want to take is Precision Attack. This character has 1 weapon attack. I want that attack to hit. And when it doesn't hit, it definitely reduces my damage. It doesn't bring it down to 0 because I have enough other forms of damage that I'm still going to do damage on my round, but I want that main attack to hit. And Precision Attack is the insurance policy that's going to help make sure that happens. So when we make a weapon attack against a creature, we can expand 1 superiority die to add to the roll. You can use this maneuver before or after making the attack roll, but before any effects of the attack are applied. So if we miss, then we would apply this to increase our chance to hit. Now this doesn't increase the base weapon of the damage, but of course doing damage with a weapon is always much more damage than missing. So these are the 3 maneuvers that I think really add to this character. We're going to be doing a lot more damage with this character because of these maneuvers, plus we can control the battlefield more. We can frighten our enemies, we can push our enemies. So that's this character at level 12. We are now going to start doing this character 2 levels at a time, and all the levels now will be wizard. We will eventually achieve 9th level spells with this character. If you weren't going to play to level 20, I would consider taking a 4th level of fighter here because you would get that ability score increase right away. And we would love another ability score increase, but if we're considering that this character might eventually make it to 20, I definitely don't want a 4th level fighter, because then I wouldn't get access to 9th level spells. So we're going to jump up the total level of this character to 14. That's 11 levels of wizard. At 10th level, we get durable magic. So at 10th level, the magic you channel helps ward off harm. While you maintain concentration on a spell, you have a +2 bonus to AC and all saving throws. This is lovely for us to have, because you know what we're doing all the time? Concentrating on spells. Whether it's the animate objects or it's greater invisibility, we're concentrating on something. Durable magic is just going to make it so that we're always going to be having that +2 bonus to armor class. We're always going to be having that +2 bonus to saving throws, and these stack. So if we use our arcane deflection, that's a +4 bonus to armor class, or a +6 bonus to saving throws, or if we cast a shield, that's a +7 bonus to armor class. Now, I haven't even put plate mail armor on this character yet, but assuming we have plate mail armor, that's magical, and then we're adding this on top. That's insane amounts of armor class that we're adding to this character. And remember, this character can use a sword and shield as well if we really want to focus on defense. And it would mean a little bit less damage in melee, but not a lot. So at this point in the video, there is a mistake, and I just want to let you know what it is beforehand. It's not a big mistake. Nothing I thought that was worth re-recording the video for, but I just want to make you aware of it because it does affect the order in which some of these things are received. So I'm going to start selecting spells, and because I am going odd by level with the wizard, then what happens is I should be selecting 2 5th level spells and 2 6th level spells, and so on and so forth as we move up. But instead what I do is I'm selecting 4 6th level spells, then 4 7th level spells, so it's all a level ahead. And then when I get to 20th level, I'm going to discover the mistake and I'm going to tell you how I would fix it. So as we move forward here, I just want to let you know what's happening. So I just want to let you know ahead of time so that you know that it's there. And then if you were making this build, you would know that you would be selecting 2 lower level spells and 2 of the 6th level spells. It really doesn't affect the build very much. Just keep in mind that at each of these jump points that I would only have 2 of the spells of the higher level, and then I would select the other 2 spells 1 level higher. We're going to get 1 additional cantrip. The cantrip I kind of like here is Lightning Lure. So what Lightning Lure does is it's kind of like the poor man's Thorn Whip. Druids have just this fantastic cantrip called Thorn Whip, and mages get Lightning Lure. I don't think it's as good, but I do think it's good for this character. So it's only a 15-foot range, and they make a strength saving throw. But if they fail that strength saving throw, they take some cantrip damage. Now that cantrip damage isn't too bad, it's d8 damage, and then we can pull them up to 10 feet towards us. Again, this might cause all kinds of battlefield control things. Most of our effects push, so this one pulls. Not something I'm going to use a lot, but I'm not going to use any cantrip a lot at this point. I do think this one adds a lot of flavor to this character. And then we are going to pick 4 6th level spells. The first one I'm going to pick, shouldn't be a surprise, is Contingency. What am I going to pair it with? Shouldn't be a surprise. It's going to be Dimension Door, and if I take a certain threshold of damage, the Dimension Door is going to get me out of there. I think that's doubly effective with this character because this character is putting themselves in a dangerous position. So if things do go south, and it turns out, that maybe we lost our concentration, our animated objects is gone, we need to get out of there, we're taking too much damage, that Contingency can be a lifesaver. I also like Mass Suggestion for this character. Again, we don't have a lot of wizard-like things we can do. This adds 1 more wizard-like thing we can do. It's not a straight damage kind of spell. The nice thing here is because it doesn't use our concentration, we can do it at the same time that we're doing those spells that we're going to be known for more, like Animate Objects. I'm also liking Programmed Illusion here. I talked about this in my last video with the Illusion build, but I actually think if you are a character that's going to be in melee at this point in your career, having that ability that, again, you can have a certain trigger and have an illusion take place can be helpful. Now, if you have a DM who says that you can't cast Programmed Illusion on yourself, it has to be cast on a map square, and you cannot move it, then don't take Programmed Illusion. I would look instead at Scatter. And then I'm going to take Soul Cage. Soul Cage, of course, gives me a number of small abilities, one of which is just advantage on a roll. And that can be an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. So that is probably the use I would do with a soul cage most of the time. We're going to be going into combat. We're going to be killing creatures. If one of them's a humanoid, then I would definitely consider doing a soul cage and just get that little battery of advantages. So somebody out there, there's always somebody, is going to be saying, but what about Tensor's Transformation? Tensor's Transformation is providing way less damage to us than our spells are at this point. And we cannot continue concentrating on our spells if we cast Tensor's Transformation. We are doing more damage with our animated objects, which is a 5th level spell, than we're doing with a Tensor's Transformation spell. Never mind the fact that we can't cast spells when we cast Tensor's Transformation, which means no Booming Blade damage. It means no Green Flame Blade damage. The damage we give up for casting Tensor's Transformation is greater than the damage it provides. Yes, we get 2d12 force damage per hit, but we're giving up 5d8 damage per hit to get that. And we're giving up 10 attacks to get that. This is just not paying off for this or any other wizard build that I can think of. I know I've pissed on Tensor's Transformation a lot in many different videos, but I always get comments saying, but what about the extra damage it does? What about the fact you're getting an extra attack? It doesn't pay off. It doesn't pay off here either. The math doesn't work. You show me how the math works, and I will change my mind. Now, if your goal is to be that martial character that just hits with the weapon over and over again, and you don't want to have animated objects or flaming spheres or things like that, then maybe this, but you're going to be worse. You're going to be worse mechanically than the build I'm showing you now. So now that I'm done my rant, you can prepare 2 of these spells. I would prepare Mass Suggestion and Soul Cage. Program Delusion and Contingency are for when you are not adventuring. So now we bring this wizard to level 13. That means this is now a 16th level character. With level 12, we get our ability score improvement, and I would definitely just bring my intelligence up to 20 at this point. It's going to give us an additional preparation, which we can definitely use. It's going to increase our initiative again, and it is going to give us another power surge. And we are going to add 4 7th level spells. First spell we're going to add is Simulacrum, obviously. And the second spell we're going to get is Plane Shift. We could take Teleport here. I like Plane Shift for this character because I can see the possibility of this character wanting to go back to the astral plane. Then we're going to take Force Cage because Force Cage is the best combat spell in the game for 7th level, and it doesn't use our concentration, so it's not going to interfere with the many other things we can do. Like, for example, trapping somebody in a Force Cage with a bunch of animated objects. And I'm going to throw Crown of Stars on here as well. Now, the nice thing about Crown of Stars, it's going to be using our bonus action to deliver damage, so it's not going to be as effective as Animate Objects, but Animate Objects requires a concentration. Crown of Stars is something we can do that doesn't require a concentration, so if we want to concentrate on something like, say, a greater invisibility, then we could do that and we could still use Crown of Stars to deliver extra damage. So we're going to prepare 2 of these spells. The spells I would definitely prepare, Force Cage and Crown of Stars, and Plane Shift and Simulacrum would be more for those times when we're not adventuring. And we're moving pretty quick here. Let's take our wizard to level 15. This character is now an 18th level character. One thing that has happened is our cantrips just scaled again. So now Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade do a lot of damage. At 14th level, we're going to get Deflecting Shroud. At 14th level, our Arcane Deflection becomes infused with Deadly Magic. When you use your Arcane Deflection feature, you can cause magical energy to arc from you. Up to 3 creatures of your choice that you can see within 60 feet each take force damage equal to half your wizard level. Now, the one advantage, I generally dislike this ability, because half your wizard level isn't a ton of damage, and I'm not expecting to use my Arcane Deflection feature all the time. But with this character, potentially much more, because if I'm in melee and I'm being attacked all the time, I can simply choose to use this instead of shield. It is going to add less to my armor class and only against 1 attack. Going to end up causing me to get hit more often, but maybe not a lot more often, because our armor class already might be pretty good. And then what we could do is every round we hit 3 creatures with 7 points of damage. That's another 21 points of damage around. There's no saving throw. There's no to hit roll. If we add that to the damage we're already doing per round, we're already more than double the 20th level damage per round. But why not go even further? Why not see how far we can do this with damage? So I'm going to take Deflecting Shroud and I'm going to use it as often as I can for an additional 21 points of damage at this level, and it's only going to go up. We are also going to be adding some 8th level spells. First one I'm going to grab is Demi-Plane, just for that storage area. It tends to be one of those spells I like to grab for this level. I am still going to grab Maze. I usually grab Maze at 8th level. It uses our concentration. Like Wall of Force is one of those more wizardly things we can do to just increase the options. I like Mind Blank here because Mind Blank is a way to layer up defenses. Because we have so many ways to layer defenses now, this makes us immune to psychic damage, to divination spells, and the charm condition. So there's a number of immunities gained here. And I would grab Antipathy Sympathy. This is a good one for a character that does go up front and tank because you can force some enemies closer to you, you can force some enemies away from you. And it is something that we can be casting outside of combat. I talked about this extensively in my 8th level video, and you would want to check that one out if you want a detailed description because it's lengthy. But what it does mean is that our preparations are pretty easy here because we will want to do our Mind Blank and our Maze, and I gotta be honest, most of the time I would probably use that 8th level slot on the Mind Blank. So let's finish off this character. Going to level 17, now this character is a 20th level character, and we finally get our 9th level spells. We're going to get another ability score improvement, and this is where I will take the Alert feat. Like I said, my concentration saves are great. I'm not going to worry about those anymore. But I didn't focus on dexterity with this character. It has a dexterity of 12, so that's +1. But I get my intelligence bonus, so that's another +5. And now with Alert, that's another +5. So we're still looking, by the end of this character, with a +11 initiative score. Because at that last level, the other characters that are straight casters are going to have their 9th level spells already, and we're going to feel that. Alternatively, with this Githyanki Battle Mage, as I said at the beginning of this video, you could make it with no fighter at all. You could just go 20 levels of Githyanki, and you would have to take the heavy armor proficiency. Other than that, it would function reasonably well, and you would get your 9th level spells at level 17. But I do think this build is stronger around those 10 to 13th level with the fighter in there. It's not until we get to 17th level that I think you really see the advantage of going straight wizard. So I'm going to issue a correction here rather than redo everything that I've done up to now, but I should have mentioned that when we started jumping 2 levels at a time, so what I should have been doing is I should have been taking 2 from the higher spell level and 2 from the level before. So I ended up with 2 less 5th level spells and 2 more 6th level spells at level 11, and then so on and so forth from there. In the end, the spell list is going to remain the same. I'm going to make the exact same choices, but the order would be slightly different. So here I'm only going to select 2 9th level spells, and then I'm going to tell you what 2 5th level spells I would have selected at 11th level. So I'm going to take Wish, always take Wish, and I'll take Wish here. And I'm going to take True Polymorph. I pretty much always take True Polymorph, and I'm going to take True Polymorph here. If I'm only selecting 2 9th level spells, those are usually going to be the ones I select. Going back to 5th level spells, I would consider taking Bigby's Hand, because Bigby's Hand, if I'm not going to use animate objects, Bigby's Hand is another way I can deliver the damage, except it's going to be magical damage, so that it's a way of getting around that, and it has other things it can do as well. So as we move up in levels, if we're facing creatures that I expect are going to be resistant or maybe even immune to non-magical attacks, I can do Bigby's Hand instead. And I can scale it, and it scales pretty well. And of course I would take Rary's Telepathic Bond in order to get the telepathy with the party and to save my preparation slots. So this is what my preparation list looks like with a 20th level character. So for my 1st level spells, I'm going to have Absorb Elements, False Life, and Shield prepared. I'm still going to cast False Life because remember I've been using D6 hit points for all those wizard levels, and that does help make up that difference. For 2nd level, I have Darkness, Flaming Sphere, and Mirror Image prepared. So Mirror Image, remember, I might use even my Action Surge to throw on a Mirror Image, though it's probably not my first choice with something as valuable as an Action Surge. But Flaming Sphere and Dark Vision. Flaming Sphere, I'm not going to be using a lot, but when I'm in combats that aren't particularly tough, throwing a 3rd or 2nd level spell slot is no big deal at 20th level. So then I might throw in a Flaming Sphere just to add a little bit to damage, and Dark Vision for when I need it. Again, I wouldn't cast it unless I'm going to need it. 3rd level spells, I'm going to have Counterspell, Dispel Magic, and Fear all prepared. I'm going to be casting Dispel Magic or Counterspell whenever I think it's appropriate. Because remember, I will get power surges from that, and that will add to my damage. At this point, it's about 8 points of damage. It's not a huge deal, but 8 points of damage is still 8 points of damage. For level 4 spells, Dimension Door, Fire Shield, Greater Invisibility. Fire Shield is something I definitely would use my Ashen Surge to set up. And Greater Invisibility would be a step down from some of the concentration spells I could do, but I don't have to worry about creatures being resistant to it or immune to it like I would with inanimate objects. And it's not going to use my bonus action every round, like something like a Bigby's Hand. So this might be something I might want to combine with something like Crown of Stars. Then for 5th level, I got my Animate Objects, Bigby's Hand, Wall of Force, and I might cast any of them depending on the situation. Remember, Animate Objects and Bigby's Hand actually both scale well as well. Animate Objects gives you an additional 2 objects per spell level. Bigby's Hand gives you an additional 2d8 damage per spell level. The 6th level spells I have prepared are Mass Suggestion and Soul Cage. I would use Soul Cage whenever it is appropriate. A humanoid goes down, I'm casting Soul Cage. Mass Suggestion is a really nice spell that I can cast while I'm concentrating on something else, and it is not going to interfere with my concentration, and it's very effective. At 7th level, I've got Crown of Stars and Force Cage prepared. Force Cage is kind of the big spell for 7th level. Crown of Stars is something I might want to do, just like I said, if I want to combine it with something like a Greater Invisibility. But I would say that most of the time, my 7th level slot, Force Cage is the one I would want to choose. For 8th level, got my Maze and my Mind Blank. Again, I would be inclined towards the Mind Blank for my 8th level slot, just because it's improving my defense in so many different ways. And then 9th level spells, I'm just going to prepare Wish. I can definitely use Wish effectively every day. So that's this character at 20th level. Sorry about the correction there, but it is all corrected now. This 20th level build is now accurate. So next week, we're going to be talking about the Abjurer. And what I'm going to be doing with the Abjurer, if you think this character has a lot of defenses, just wait till next week when we make the Armadillo. This is my Hobgoblin Abjurer build with a dip into Warlock. So I hope you'll join me for that. And until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next time.